Aaron Rodgers possibly returning to the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2026. And the first reaction most people have is simple. That's bad news for the Ravens. But there's a detail in this situation that almost everyone is missing, and it completely changes how this story plays inside the AFC North. Because after everything that happened between these two teams last season, this isn't just about a rivalry continuing. It feels heavier than that. And what the Ravens might be seeing behind this move could be very different from what everyone else is assuming right now. Honestly, Ravens fans, when I saw the news that Aaron Rodgers could be back with the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2026, I had a very different reaction than most people. Because a lot of fans instantly think, this is a huge problem for Baltimore. But I see it differently. This might actually be the exact opportunity the Ravens were waiting for after what happened last year, and there's no way to ignore it. The Ravens lost both games to the Steelers in 2025, watched Rodgers control those matchups, and ended the season with that painful loss in Pittsburgh. From my perspective, that definitely left a mark inside this locker room. AFC North rivalries are already intense, but after how that season ended, it feels even more personal. What makes this even more interesting is how Baltimore spent the entire offseason trying to fix exactly what went wrong in those games. The team strengthened the defense, brought in Trey Hendrickson, added new pieces, and increased the overall strength of the defensive line. When you look at those moves, it becomes pretty clear the Ravens were not satisfied with what happened against Rodgers last year. And I'll be very direct here. There's a different level of motivation when you're facing the quarterback who ended your season. The Ravens know exactly who was on the other side in those games. So if Rodgers really does go back to Pittsburgh, I fully expect Baltimore to walk into those matchups with a completely different mindset than last season. But there's one important detail in all of this. When you break down those 2025 games, it becomes very clear the real issue wasn't just Aaron Rodgers playing well. It was Baltimore's inability to pressure the quarterback. And when you look at the numbers from those matchups, Ravens fans, it becomes pretty obvious why Aaron Rodgers had so much success against Baltimore. He was simply comfortable the entire time. In those two games, Rodgers threw for over 570 yards, completed more than 66% of his passes, and controlled the tempo without consistent pressure. That to me explains a lot because let's be real, no quarterback in the NFL likes to be pressured. The issue is Baltimore just couldn't get to him. Rodgers was sacked only twice across both games. 2. That's extremely low for a defense that was supposed to change the game through its pass rush. And throughout the 2025 season, that became one of the biggest criticisms of the Ravens. A lot of people pointed to the secondary or coverage issues, but in my view, the problem goes deeper than that. When a quarterback has too much time in the pocket, everything becomes easier. Routes develop, receivers find space, and a veteran like Rodgers starts picking apart the defense step by step. That's exactly what happened. Baltimore never really made him uncomfortable in any key moment. But here's where things get interesting this offseason. Because the Ravens clearly understood the problem. The organization didn't try to make excuses after the elimination. They attacked the market, strengthened the defensive line, and spent the entire offseason trying to improve pressure on the quarterback. That tells me they know exactly what failed against Pittsburgh last year. And when you start looking at the names they brought in to fix that, that's when things get really interesting for 2026 against Rodgers and the Steelers. The Baltimore Ravens are not treating this situation like a coincidence. After everything that happened in 2025 against the Steelers, it became clear what the biggest issue was. Rodgers had too much time to operate. And when that happens against a quarterback like him, it always shows up on the scoreboard. The addition of Trey Hendrickson completely changes that picture. He's not just another defensive piece. He's exactly the type of player who shortens the quarterback's clock, forces mistakes, and disrupts timing. And against Aaron Rodgers, that kind of consistent pressure is exactly what makes a difference. And the Ravens didn't stop there. Zion Young came through the draft, Calais Campbell returned with experience and physical presence, and Mike Green still has room to grow inside the system. This isn't a small adjustment. It's a clear effort to turn the defensive line into something far more aggressive than last season. The key point here is simple. In 2025, Rodgers was far too comfortable against Baltimore. No consistent pressure, no disruption, and that allowed him to control both games. That's where the defense lost control of the matchup. Now the goal is different. Take away that comfort from the very first snap. And when you combine that with his age and a more aggressive Ravens front, this rematch starts to look very different from last season. One thing people shouldn't overlook here is simple. The Aaron Rodgers who dominated the Ravens in 2025 is not exactly the same player today. He's still a highly intelligent quarterback who reads defenses at a high level and controls tempo. But age does start to change certain things. At 42 years old, the biggest difference shows up when pressure arrives faster. In the past, Rodgers could escape, extend plays, and make impossible throws. That doesn't happen as consistently anymore, and against a more aggressive defense like Baltimore is building, that becomes a major factor. From my perspective, this completely changes how this matchup should be viewed. It's not just about talent. It's about how long a quarterback can maintain that level under constant pressure. And that was exactly what Baltimore failed to create last season. There's also another important angle. When a veteran quarterback loses a bit of mobility, defenses gain more freedom to attack aggressively. It's not just about stopping the pass, it's about cutting down decision time on every single play. And when you combine that with Baltimore's new defensive setup, the picture for 2026 starts to look very different from 2025, which leads into the final piece of this story. If you're enjoying this breakdown, smash that like button to help the purple flock grow. This possible rematch with Aaron Rodgers in 2026 is not just another AFC North game. It carries everything that happened last season between the Ravens and Steelers. That wasn't a normal loss. It was a game where Baltimore lost control at the most important moment of the year. That Week 18 loss in Pittsburgh makes it even heavier. It wasn't just a divisional game. It ended Baltimore's season and confirmed Pittsburgh's dominance in the division. Moments like that stay with a team, especially in a rivalry this intense. What stands out to me is that the core of this roster hasn't changed much. These are the same players who were on the field that day, who saw Rodgers control the game, and who felt the defense fade when it mattered most. And what also matters is how Baltimore responded afterward. These weren't random adjustments. Everything points to a direct reaction to what happened against Pittsburgh, especially in how the opposing offense controlled key moments. If this rematch happens in 2026 with Rodgers back in Pittsburgh, it stops being just another divisional game. Baltimore walks into it with internal pressure to respond, to prove last year doesn't define them, and to show that the Steelers' dominance isn't the standard anymore. Aaron Rodgers potentially returning to the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2026 isn't just another AFC North move. It directly impacts the Baltimore Ravens and brings back a rivalry that already left its mark last season. After what happened in 2025, with Rodgers controlling the matchups and Baltimore falling short in the division, this new scenario doesn't come quietly. The Ravens enter 2026 with adjustments made, recent memories still fresh, and a strong internal demand to respond on the field. And now I want to hear from you. Does Rodgers' return make things worse for the Ravens? Or is this exactly the chance Baltimore needed to finally answer what was left unfinished last season? And if you're a true Ravens fan and love keeping up with everything happening around the team, don't leave this video without sharing it with a friend who's just as passionate. They're definitely going to enjoy this. See those videos on your screen right now? I picked the first one especially for you, and the other is recommended by YouTube. Go check them out and I'll see you in the next video.